My beloved, I want you to quiet your heart before you step deeper into what I am about to unveil. For this is not a word meant merely to soothe passing emotions, but a light that exposes what has long been operating in silence within the depths of your soul and in the spiritual atmosphere surrounding your life. I speak not to instill fear, but to release you from the invisible chains that have, time and again, caused you to question the true worth I placed within you from the very beginning. There have been things quietly woven like nets of darkness, not to destroy your body, but to distort the way you see yourself, leading you to believe that you are not enough, not worthy, not included in the good that is coming. Yet I am the one who never forgets the work of my hands, and I never abandon what I have begun. From the beginning, as it is written, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, Jeremiah 1:5. I placed upon you an identity that cannot be erased, and yet the enemy of your soul has sought to cover that identity with voices of doubt, with experiences that made you feel forgotten in the flow of life. It could not touch your soul, so it attempted to shake your perception of it. It could not lock away your future, so it tried to hold you still in the present, convincing you that you are not called to move forward. But I ask you, who has ever prevailed against my word? Who can erase what I have inscribed with my own breath? Remember the story of Joseph, who was rejected by his brothers, sold as though he had no value, cast into prison as if his life had come to an end. Yet, in all that seemed like rejection, I was weaving a path of redemption. As it is written, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. Genesis 50:20. Joseph was not forgotten, even when in the eyes of men he had vanished from the family story. In the same way, you have never been erased from my story, even in the moments when you felt pushed aside, unmentioned, unrecognized, unseen. I have seen every tear you thought fell into emptiness. I have heard every whispered prayer you believed went unanswered. I have remembered every step you took in loneliness, when you felt you had wandered away from meaning. Yet, my child, the very place you perceived as my absence was where I was quietly holding you back from what was beyond your strength to bear. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted, Psalm 34:18. And I have never departed from the place where your heart trembled the most. Look also to Moses, who was spared from Pharaoh's ruthless decree when every male child was marked for destruction. Darkness believed it could extinguish a destiny by striking at the most vulnerable. Yet I used the very river meant for destruction as the pathway of preservation. From what seemed like rejection, Moses was lifted up, trained, and in the time I appointed, he became the deliverer of an entire people. In the same way, what once tried to deny you will not be your end, but will become the evidence that I have carried you through every adversity you did not even realize you survived. Do not believe the voice that once told you that you were invisible. That is not my voice. I never call you meaningless, for I breathed into you life from my own being. And as it is written, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, Psalm 139:14. You are not an accident, nor are you forgotten. You are the expression of my eternal intention. So today, I ask you to release every distorted image of yourself that you have carried like a burden. Let my light shine into every dark corner of your memory where you once believed you were left behind. For I am rewriting the way you see yourself, not through the memory of wounds, but through my eternal truth. And that truth is this: you belong to me. You are called by name, and you will never be erased from the path I have ordained. Stand firm in this, my beloved. No darkness holds the authority to erase what I have written with light. And as you continue forward, you will come to see that even the places you once thought were losses have been transformed into signposts, guiding you toward what I prepared for you from the very beginning. I am with you, not only to lead you, but to ensure that you are never lost on the journey back into your own destiny. My beloved, listen to me in the deep stillness of your soul, where the noise of the world fades away, so that you may recognize a truth that darkness once tried to conceal. You were never targeted because you were weak, but because you carry within you a potential ordained by heaven long before time. For this very reason, the enemy of your soul does not waste its effort on what is meaningless. It sets its sights on you because it sees in you a future it cannot control. As it is written, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. John 10:10. But I have come that you may have life, and have it abundantly. This opposition is not accidental. It is evidence that you stand within a battle of destiny, where your true worth has been recognized by both light and darkness. Remember the account of Haman in the time of Esther, when he devised what seemed to be a perfect scheme to annihilate a chosen people. He did not target them because they were weaker than others, but because he perceived an intolerable destiny resting upon them. He feared their future more than their present, and so he moved from the shadows of power and manipulation to act against them. Yet I overturned every one of his plans in a single moment of my appointed time. As it is written, the destruction they intended for others became their own. Esther 9:1. Interpreted through spiritual principle. Do you see? No design of darkness can stand when my hand moves to release deliverance. My beloved, what I desire for you to understand is not only my protection, but the true nature of the attacks you have endured. There were words that pierced you like spears, not because they carried real authority, but because they struck places within you that had not yet been healed. There were experiences that bound you like chains, not because they defined you, but because they sought to make you forget that you had already been set free in me. And there were seasons when you felt forgotten, not because I had left you, but because I was hiding you within a process of formation, like a seed buried deep in the soil before it rises as life. But I declare this over you: I have called you by your name. You are mine. Isaiah 43:1. No declaration of man can erase what has been inscribed by my own breath. Your name was not written by the approval of the world, and therefore it cannot be erased by the rejection of the world. It is engraved with an eternal purpose, beyond the reach of any opposing force. You once believed that seasons of silence were signs of failure, but I tell you, they were places where I was shielding you from premature collisions, so that you would not be broken before you were strong enough to stand in what I have ordained. Like Joseph in the prison, it seemed as though he had been removed from his future. Yet it was there that I was preparing him for the throne. No one saw him in the darkness. Yet I was writing the story of a ruler within those very walls that appeared devoid of hope. Have you noticed, my beloved, though you have been weary, though you have fallen, doubted, and even desired to stop, you have never truly slipped from my guiding hand. As it is written, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalm 23:4. It is my presence that has kept you from straying off the path of your destiny, even when you were unaware of it. And I want you to understand this more clearly. Darkness has no ability to create destiny. It can only react to the destiny I have already ordained. Therefore, every tactic meant to make you withdraw, deny yourself, or close your own doors is nothing more than a reaction to the light that is growing within you. It cannot stop you from becoming, so it tries to make you forget that you will become. But today, I stand before you not as a distant one, but as a father placing his hand upon your shoulder and saying, "Enough, my child. Do not believe the voices that once made you smaller, for I have not diminished you, I am enlarging you. I have not erased you, I am engraving you more deeply into the current of eternity. And I have not let you be lost. I am leading you back into the original identity I placed within you from the beginning. So rise, not by your own strength, but by a renewed awareness that you have never been removed from. My journey for you. Everything that once tried to erase you has failed from the moment it began. Because you do not belong to the hand of destruction, but to the hand of the Creator. And in that hand, you are not merely preserved, you are being shaped to shine at the appointed time I have set. My beloved, I want you to receive this truth, not through passing emotion, but with the steadiness of a soul being rebuilt from its deepest foundation. Nothing that darkness has ever constructed to erase you has been your end. On the contrary, all of it has become material in my hands to make your name revealed more clearly at the time I have appointed. As it is written, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him. Romans 8:28. Even what seemed to oppose you, I am bending to serve the path I established for you long before time. Remember Joseph, who was sold in the bitterness of betrayal, taken from his own home, seemingly erased from the lineage and memory of his family. Yet what man called rejection, I called redirection. In that very descent, I was opening an unseen corridor leading him into the center of power in Egypt. It was not that pain held power, but that in my hands, all pain becomes material for building something greater than the pain itself. And when the appointed time came, the one who had been forgotten became the one who sustained an entire nation. Therefore, never measure your life by its broken segments. Instead, see with my eyes, where every fracture is a connection point in a far greater story. My beloved, I am showing you something deeper than you have ever understood. Darkness cannot erase you. It can only create circumstances within which I shape you more profoundly. It seeks to make you disappear. Yet, I use that very sense of disappearance to lead you into the depth of formation. It seeks to make you forgotten. Yet I use that forgetting to teach you not to depend on the recognition of others. It seeks to leave you behind. Yet I use that abandonment to teach you to stand firm without external support, just as the earth must be pressed deep before underground streams can rise. So, I have led you into seasons that seem silent, so that the current of life within you may become stronger than anything outside of you. I declare over you, no one who is in my hand can be snatched out of my hand. John 10:28. Therefore, no scheme can erase your name from what I have written. No judgment can remove the identity I have placed upon your life. No rejection can shake the word I spoke before you were even formed. When I inscribed your name into the flow of time, I did not do so in a fleeting moment, but within the eternity of my intention. And what is engraved in eternity cannot be erased by time. Look back at the seasons when you believed you were invisible, unnoticed, set aside. But I tell you, those were not places of removal, but places where I was keeping you from the noise that could have misaligned you. In those quiet spaces, I was signing your future with the ink of heaven, not with human recognition, but with my eternal affirmation. And what I signed cannot be altered, for no authority stands above my word. My beloved, remember what is written. I have called you by your name, you are mine. Isaiah 43:1. When I call your name, it is not a passing utterance, but an act of establishing identity. And once identity is established by me, all opposition becomes temporary, while what I have spoken remains eternal. Darkness may create noise, but it cannot change the nature of the light I have placed within you. You once thought being left behind was a sign of failure, but I am showing you that it was where I trained you not to depend on the presence of others. You once thought being forgotten meant you were unimportant, but I am turning that into the place where you learn to stand firm in my presence alone. You once thought silence was emptiness, but I am transforming it into a forge where your soul is being shaped for a role beyond anything you have imagined. And I want you to understand this more deeply than anything else. No force can rewrite what I have written. No hand can erase what I have engraved. No voice can silence what I have called. When I have placed your name within my eternal plan, that name will resound at the appointed time, not early, not late, but perfectly aligned with my purpose. So today, release every fear that you could be erased, abandoned, or forgotten, for I am not only holding you in my hand, I am leading you through every layer of formation so that you may become exactly what I saw from the beginning. And when the time comes, you will realize that everything that once tried to conceal you was, in truth, an unseen hand guiding you to the place where your name would be lifted into a light no darkness can ever cover. My beloved, I want you to receive this with deep awareness, no longer viewing life through the surface of events, but with spiritual sight that discerns the order behind every movement. There is a principle in the journey by which I lead you. The fiercest attacks against identity are not signs of your removal, but signs that you are standing very near a spiritual transition I have already appointed. As it is written, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. Meaning that even in the height of pressure, I am actively guiding the passage through the threshold of destiny. Remember David, when the young shepherd stood before Goliath, what preceded victory was not a moment of gentle peace, but a confrontation with something immense, meant to shake human identity. Goliath was not merely a warrior, he was a voice imposing itself upon perception, attempting to redefine David as not enough, yet at the very point the world called impossible. I redefined history with a small stone in the hand of one who was overlooked. What seemed like the ultimate threat became the gateway to kingship. And so it is with you. What is rising before your eyes is not there to stop you, but to prepare you for the unveiling I have already ordained. My beloved, look at Daniel in the lion's den. What came before his elevation was not safety, but a night that seemed to bring everything to an end. Men believed it was the final point, yet I used that very place of greatest danger to demonstrate that my life surpasses every boundary of death. As it is written, my God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths. Daniel 6:22. Do you see? What appeared to be a place of destruction became a place of confirmation. And afterward, Daniel was lifted into a recognition that no system could deny. In the same way, remember the disciples on the sea when the storm arose, just before they witnessed the power of the Son of Man walking on the water. The wind did not intensify because I had abandoned them, but because a greater revelation was about to be unveiled. Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? Mark 4:40. In that shaking, I was not absent. I was teaching them to recognize authority beyond the storm. And you are within that same principle. The disturbances around you are not signs of abandonment, but signs of preparation for a deeper unveiling. My child, I want you to stop defining yourself by the level of pressure you are facing. Darkness always amplifies its noise just before it loses control. It escalates its attacks not because it has grown stronger, but because it knows its time is narrowing. It wants you to withdraw at the threshold. But I am using that very threshold to reshape your spiritual resilience. And if everything feels deeper, more complex, more intense, it is not a sign that you are off course. It is a sign that you are very close to the moment when I will release a new level into your life. I declare over you, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Isaiah 49:16. This means no circumstance can cause your name to fall from my remembrance. No judgment of man can alter what I have established. No system of exclusion can erase what I have ordained. And as I prepare to inscribe your name more deeply into the current of your future, the opposing voices will become powerless. like mist dissolving at the appearance of dawn. Understand this more deeply. I am not only keeping you from failure, I am establishing you into a role whose full meaning only I can see. There are things you have not yet perceived, yet I have already seen the whole. There are things you do not yet understand, yet I have already set them in order. And what is unfolding is not meant to break you, but to position you precisely within the greater design I am completing. So today, I call you out of the interpretations shaped by fear. Do not measure your identity by pressure any longer. Let my word be your foundation. For I am not merely protecting you through the waves. I am bringing you to the place where you will realize that every wave was only the beginning of a greater unveiling. And when I establish your name within the future, you will understand that no voice that ever rose against you can remain before the light I have placed upon your life. My beloved, I want you to step deeper into this spiritual truth with a quiet heart. For what I am about to reveal is no longer merely comfort, but a repositioning of your identity within my order. There is a principle you must hold firmly. I do not confront darkness according to its own system. For if I only resisted it, you would still remain within its structure. But I do not leave you there. I transfer you into another order, where the laws of darkness no longer hold authority over your life. As it is written, He has delivered us from the domain of darkness and transferred us into the kingdom of His beloved Son. Colossians 1:13. Deliverance is not merely escape, it is relocation. Understand this even more deeply. Darkness can only operate where it has access. It tries to erase your name by keeping you positioned in an old place of awareness where you are limited by memory, by the opinions of others, by moments when you were diminished. But I do not argue with darkness within that position. I bring you out of it. And once you are no longer standing where it aims, all its strategies lose meaning. Remember Samuel, when I sent him to the house of Jesse to anoint a future king. Men saw the older brother strong, impressive, seemingly worthy, but I chose the one no one expected. A boy in the fields. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16:7. And in that repositioning, David did not have to strive for recognition. He only needed to be placed where I had appointed him. When the oil was poured out, every former system of evaluation immediately lost its authority to define who he was. My beloved, what I am doing in you is no different. I am not expending all my effort merely to patch the sharp edges of life that once pierced you. I am changing the very structure upon which those edges once depended. When the foundation is altered, the weapons are no longer compatible. When the position shifts, old strategies lose their footing. And when you are placed into what I call a named space, every attempt to erase your name dissolves on its own. Look at Joseph. If you examine his life in fragments, you will see a sequence of breakdowns: sold, misunderstood, imprisoned. But I do not view his life in isolated pieces. I see the entire journey as a purposeful flow. And I transformed what seemed like rejection into the pathway that led him into a position where even his own family would bow in recognition. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Genesis 50:20. This means that no part of the process was wasted. Everything was redefined in my hands. My child, I want you to pause and release the old perception that pain is a sign of the end. In me, pain is only material that has not yet been placed in its proper position within the greater design. When your life appears fragmented, it is not because it is meaningless, but because you have not yet seen the full frame I am constructing. And within that frame, not a single piece is discarded. As you have heard, I am making all things new. Revelation 21:5. Making new does not mean repairing the old in the old way. It means shifting the entire structure into a different reality, where the old no longer has authority to define the new. Therefore, What was once used against you will not repeat with the same function. It is being restructured in my hands, becoming the very foundation for your elevation. My beloved, I want you to recognize this. Darkness does not understand what happens when you are repositioned. It only knows how to operate within the realm it is familiar with. But when you step into the space that I alone open, it loses its bearings. It has no map for your future, because that future does not belong to the system it governs. And in that place, you are no longer the object of attack. You become the one who is established. I am not merely keeping you from the errors of your past. I am bringing you into the precision of your future. Not so that you may strive harder to stand, but so that you may stand in the exact place I have appointed. And when you stand in that position, you will see no further battle is required to prove that you belong to me, because your very position is the confirmation. So allow me to lead you out of the old space of judgment, comparison, and limitation. I am placing you into a realm where light is no longer contested, and there, your name does not need to be defended. For I myself am the one who keeps your name in eternity. My beloved, understand that the process I am working within your life is not a sudden intervention that changes everything in an instant, but a quiet, deep, and enduring restructuring taking place within the most subtle layers of your inner being, layers not easily perceived by the natural eye. I am not only drawing you out of the erased place, I am rebuilding the way you stand, the way you hear, the way you discern, and the way you belong to me. As it is written, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you, Ezekiel 36:26. Meaning that the transformation I bring is not on the surface of circumstances, but within the deep structure of who you are. I do not begin by changing your circumstances, but by restoring your ability to hear my voice amid the multitude of noises that once surrounded your life. While you were still learning to recognize my voice, I gently separated you from the false sounds that had caused you to confuse guidance with pressure. Then I led you into a more refined stage. You began to discern what voice came from fear and what voice carried truth. And even as you were still unsteady in that discernment, I placed you in a space where you could stand firm, even without seeing clear results. As it is written, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, Hebrews 11:1. Meaning, I am training you to live not by what is seen, but by what I have spoken. My beloved, do you notice this? In recent seasons, you are no longer pulled down as easily as before. It is not because you have become strong in the way the world defines strength, but because I have shifted the anchor within you. In the past, darkness could influence you because it found openings, areas of unhealed wounds, memories not yet redefined, emotions not yet placed under my light. But now, I am filling those spaces with my presence. As it is written, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. When light is present, darkness does not first weaken, it loses its right to remain. My child, I do not contend with darkness in the way you imagine. I simply change the foundation upon which it once relied. And when the foundation shifts, every former structure collapses without the need for direct confrontation. Just as when a supporting stone is removed, the entire structure above it no longer needs to be pushed down. It simply loses its ability to stand. Darkness once depended on your insecurity to exert influence, but I am turning that very insecurity into a place where you come to know me more deeply. What it used to manipulate you, I am using to strengthen you. What it once exploited, I am transforming into the foundation of your spiritual growth. My beloved, it is within this transition that you begin to step into a realm where darkness has no map. It does not understand why the things that once shook you no longer have power. It cannot comprehend why words that once crushed you now pass over you without weight. This is not because it has changed, but because you have been repositioned into a different frame of reference. And as I have spoken, I am in you, and you are in me, John 14:20, meaning your alignment is no longer dependent on the external world, but anchored within me. You may not fully perceive it, but I am doing something profound. I am turning the very places that were once cracks into load-bearing structures within you. The areas you once thought were weaknesses, I am filling with my strength. As it is written, my power is made perfect in weakness, 2 Corinthians 12:9. This means that no part of you is discarded. Everything is being redefined in my light. My beloved, I want you to understand this secret. Darkness does not fear you because you are strong in the way it understands. It fears you because you are being moved out of its sphere of influence. It cannot continue to operate over a life that has been repositioned in me. And this transformation does not require noise, proof, or display. It only requires that you stand where I have placed you. Therefore, when you find that you no longer react as you once did, do not mistake it for numbness or loss of feeling. It is a sign that you have been shifted onto a new foundation. When you are no longer pulled down by what once overcame you, it is not because you are avoiding it, but because I have changed the internal structure that sustains you. I am not only protecting you from attack, I am making you no longer a target that can be reached in the old way. And as you stand in this new position, you will understand this. What matters is not whether darkness is still active, but that you no longer belong to the realm it can control. And this is the secret I am engraving deeply into your life today. My beloved, I want you to understand a depth that few are able to perceive. My act of writing your name into the future is not something that occurs in a single isolated moment, nor is it a mark that appears only when you see a door open before you. It is a process ordered, intentional, and intricately woven by me throughout the entire flow of your life. As it is written, the Lord directs a person's steps, Proverbs 16:9, meaning that no detail in your journey lies outside of my orchestration. When I inscribe your name into the future, I do not merely call you in a spiritual instant. I begin to restructure the entire trajectory you are walking in the present. What once seemed random, a meeting, a departure, an opportunity that appears and then fades, is no longer coincidence, but becomes connection points within the map I am drawing. I adjust timing, space, relationships, and even the pace at which things come into contact with your life. And when this adjustment begins, you will notice that your life no longer moves in disorder, but in a current with clear direction, even if you cannot yet fully name it. My beloved, you may not realize it yet, but when I begin to inscribe your name into an approaching moment, an unseen restructuring takes place around you. Relationships that no longer align will naturally fall away without your striving or force. Things that once held you closed will lose their power to confine you. Environments that once limited you will begin to lose their influence over your perception. As it is written, when the fullness of time had come, God sent his Son, Galatians 4:4, meaning that every movement unfolds at the precise moment, and nothing occurs before or beyond my intention. Do not be quick to call it coincidence. Nothing in this process is accidental. When people who once misunderstood you are no longer present in your new chapter, it is not loss, it is a realignment of influence, so that you are not pulled back into your past. When opportunities that once closed suddenly reopen in ways you cannot explain, it is not luck, it is the reactivation of what I established long ago, now coming into operation at the appointed time. My beloved, I want you to grasp something even deeper when I write your name into the future. I am not only changing what is around you, I am transforming how you respond to your own life. You will find yourself leaving behind old patterns, not through forced effort, but because they no longer belong to you within the new structure I am establishing. You will notice that anxieties that once clung tightly to your mind begin to loosen, not because circumstances have vanished, but because your spiritual position has been lifted beyond the level where those anxieties once held authority. Like underground waters before they rise to the surface, you will begin to sense a subtle stirring within your soul. It will not be loud or dramatic, yet it will be clear enough for you to recognize that a shift is taking place. You will find peace in situations that once unsettled you. You will notice that you are no longer drawn into the same reactions, and you will see doors begin to appear in ways that no one arranged for you, as though they are finding their way to you. But I tell you this, it is not the doors that are seeking you, it is you who are being aligned into the precise trajectory to walk through the doors I have already prepared. Remember what is written, what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, and what no human mind has conceived. These are the things God has prepared for those who love Him. 1 Corinthians 2-9. This means that your future is not determined by your ability to foresee, but by my preparation in eternity. And when I inscribe your name into the future, I am the one who causes everything in the present to begin converging toward a single point. My beloved, pause and understand this. You are not drifting through life. You are being led within an intentional order. Every subtle shift, every small change, every departure or arrival is participating in the establishment of your identity in the new chapter I am unfolding. And when the appointed time is fulfilled, you will realize that nothing that has happened was without meaning. For everything has been leading you to the place where your name is called forth clearly within my arrangement. So be at peace, not because everything is finished, but because everything is being aligned with precision. And when I call your name in the future, you will see that every step you have taken has never been outside my guiding hand. My beloved, keep your heart still, for what I am opening to you is no longer mere comfort, but the establishment of a new phase in the journey I am leading you through. There is a clear sign you must learn to recognize when I inscribe your name into the future. The power of the things that once caused you to collapse will begin to lose their weight within your inner life. As it is written, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, all things have become new. 2 Corinthians 5:17. This renewal is not only external, it is, first and foremost, an internal restructuring. You will recognize this not through a dramatic event, but through a profound shift in the way your soul responds. Words of judgment that once unsettled you will begin to slide off you, as though they have nothing to hold on to. This is not because you have become numb, but because I have altered the inner foundation where those words once found access. Memories that once reopened, wounds will no longer trigger the same pain. For I have laid my peace within you as a new ground, and fears that once felt so familiar that you believed they were part of you will begin to feel distant, as though you are looking back at a life that no longer belongs to you. My beloved, understand this clearly. This is not forgetfulness. It is a change of your inner spiritual environment. When the internal atmosphere is transformed, all former strategies of darkness cease to function. It once relied on familiar weaknesses, but when those places are healed by me, it loses its point of access. Just as when light appears, darkness does not need to be driven out, but simply disappears. So, when I renew what is within you, every former influence loses its effect. And I want to reveal another secret to you. When your name is written into a new chapter, I am not only changing you, I begin to arrange the people who will enter your life. There are those who have already been prepared to walk with you in this season, but they will only appear when you are standing in the place I have appointed. No one arrives too early to disrupt your process. and no one arrives too late to miss what I have prepared. As it is written, the Lord makes firm the steps of the one who delights in him. Psalm 37:23. This means that every meeting, every departure, every arrival is held within my order. You do not need to chase, force, or fear that you will miss what is yours. When you stand in the right place, everything that belongs to you will come to you at the right time. And when the moment is fulfilled, you will realize that it is your stability in me that draws the future nearer, not your urgency. My beloved, hear this as a declaration. The moment when I begin to announce your name has reached its threshold. This is not a loud proclamation in the way the world understands, but a declaration within the spiritual order, where every false definition about you begins to be dismantled. The voices that once said you were not enough, unworthy, or out of time will gradually lose their power, not because they vanish, but because they no longer have a foundation upon which to stand. As it is written, the Lord says, I have called you by your name, you are mine. Isaiah 43:1. When I call your name, it is not a repetition, but an act of reestablishing your identity before the whole of reality. And when identity is reestablished, everything misaligned around it begins to collapse naturally. My beloved, I do not call you to return to what is old. I do not call you to remain bound to the past. I call you to step out of the limitations that once falsely defined you. And when I call, it is not for you to be noticed, but for you to be positioned rightly within the chapter I am writing. So today, pause in this awareness. You are no longer in the phase of being defined by what has been, but are stepping into the phase of being established by what I am opening. And as you continue to walk within that establishment, you will see that nothing that once stood against you can remain before the calling I am placing upon your life. My beloved, receive this with the deep seriousness of your soul. For this is a spiritual principle. Not all are given sight to understand. When I proclaim your name, it is not an external confirmation, but an activation from eternity that reshapes the entire structure within and around your life. As it is written, the Lord called you from the womb. From the body of your mother he named you. Isaiah 49:1. Meaning your name was not formed by circumstance, but was ordained before circumstances ever came into being. Look at those I have called throughout my history, and understand how I operate in changing names and destinies. Abraham was not merely given a new name as an outward sign. When I called him from Abram to Abraham, I redefined the very substance of the promise within him. Jacob did not simply receive a new title. When I called him Israel, I transformed him from one who grasps into one who prevails. Samuel was not merely called in the night. That moment opened a life in which his voice became my voice among the people. Mary was not only chosen when her name was called. The entire history of redemption entered a new trajectory. Thus, every time I call a name, it is a restructuring of destiny, not a simple acknowledgement. My beloved, understand this more deeply. When I call your name, I am not only identifying you, I am bringing you into a new order where your nature, your weight, and your influence are no longer what they once were. Not because you have changed yourself, but because your position before me and within the flow of life has shifted. As it is written, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. 2 Corinthians 5:17. This newness is not merely a change in behavior, but a change in the frame of reference in which you exist. Listen carefully. The moment of destiny's transition does not begin when an external door opens, but when your soul begins to hear your name more clearly in my voice than in the voices of the world. When you stop defining yourself by the labels others have placed upon you, whether judgment, wounds, or doubt that is when you enter the true process of transition. For transition does not begin with a change of circumstances, but with a change of position within you. My beloved, I am teaching you something many miss. Heaven does not immediately change your external world. It begins by changing how you see that world. When your vision is aligned with my light, everything that was once misaligned begins to return to its proper place. As it is written, test everything, hold fast what is good. 1 Thessalonians 5:21. Meaning that a new discernment within you will bring about a new order around you. You may not yet fully perceive it, but when you no longer react according to the names the world has given you, when you are no longer led by the name of fear, and no longer shrink under the name of wounds, that is, when you are living in the true name I have placed upon you, and as you live within that name, everything around you will begin to align with my order, not the chaos of your past. My beloved, understand this clearly. I do not wait for the world to change before you step into your destiny. I change you so that you may step into your destiny even while the world remains unchanged. And when you stand in that new position, you will see that what once pulled you down no longer has the authority to define you, because you no longer stand within its sphere of influence. So today, I call you back into this deep awareness. You are no longer one defined by external voices, but one established by a calling from eternity. And as you continue to listen to that calling, you will see that everything I have spoken over you is not merely promise, but is becoming reality in the very way you exist each day. My beloved, I want you to understand clearly that the process of transition is not a loud event that can be easily recognized by the natural eye. It does not begin with outward upheaval, but with a very subtle movement within the soul, a kind of awakening that no longer allows you to remain at rest within the things that once held you back. As it is written, watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. Matthew 25:13. Meaning the essential matter is not the moment of outward manifestation, but the state of readiness within you when the shift begins. You will recognize transition, not when your life suddenly changes, but when you no longer belong to the voices that once defined you. A quiet separation begins to take place. Things you once clung to gradually lose their hold. Environments that once contained you begin to feel constricting, and connections that no longer align begin to loosen without force. This is not coincidence. It is a sign that I am rearranging the spiritual weight within your life, so that you are no longer anchored by what cannot lift you. My beloved, see this more deeply. When I prepare to elevate someone, I do not place them within systems that weigh them down. I remove them from misplaced anchors. Just as a bird must leave its branch to rise into the sky, you are being led out of what was once familiar, but no longer belongs to my new operation within you. And in this process, you may feel as though you are being separated from certain things. But in truth, you are being freed from unnecessary weight. As it is written, those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. Isaiah 40:31. Elevation does not begin with the effort to fly, but with renewal from within. When I prepare to engrave your name into a new chapter, I do not cause you to cling more tightly to the present. I lighten you from what no longer fits, so that you can bear the height of what I am opening. My child, understand this clearly. Every door that once closed in your life no longer has the authority to define your direction. For in this new chapter, I do not use old doors to lead you. I myself am the door. As it is written, I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved. John 10:9. This means you are no longer limited by what people open or shut, for your path is no longer dependent on human hands, but on my leading. When I call your name, I do not call from the memory of the past, but from the reality of the future I have already ordained. And because I call from the future, my word does not merely describe who you are, it draws you into becoming what I have already seen. People see you according to what they have observed, but I see you according to what I have established. And what I establish is always greater than what you have ever thought about yourself. My beloved, I also want to teach you an important principle of transition. Entering the chapter I have written is not about chasing emotion, but about learning to discern the atmosphere. What belongs to me carries a distinct mark, not noise, not pressure, but life. As it is written, my spirit will guide you into all truth. John 16:13. Meaning true guidance does not come from external chaos, but from an inward, knowing that I align within you. You will learn to recognize what belongs to the new chapter, not by its outward appearance, but by the state it produces within your soul. What is from me will carry peace, even when answers are not yet clear. It will make you steadier, not more anxious. It will expand you, not cause you to shrink. It will draw you closer to your true self, not away from the essence I placed within you. And this is a sign that cannot be imitated. My beloved, I am teaching you to walk in spiritual sensitivity so that you are not led by appearances, but by life itself. For not everything that appears great comes from me, and not everything that appears small is without meaning. Yet everything that comes from me carries the breath of life, and you will recognize it even before your mind can fully explain it. So today, I place within you a new awareness. You are not merely approaching an event, you are being moved into a new level of perception. And as you walk within this level, you will begin to see that what I have ordained for you is no longer distant, but is already arranging itself to bring you into your rightful place within the chapter where I inscribed your name from eternity. My beloved, understand this principle clearly. In the process I am leading you through, anything that no longer belongs to your new chapter will begin to feel heavy to you, not because it has changed, but because your position has, as it is written, there is a time to keep, and a time to let go. Ecclesiastes 3:6. This means the sense of heaviness or lightness you feel no longer comes from the things themselves, but from the inner adjustment I am making within your soul. You will notice that what was once familiar now feels restrictive. Paths that once seemed easy now feel out of rhythm. And what once gave you a sense of safety no longer aligns with your new steps. This is not loss. It is a sign that you no longer belong to the old structure. Like a pair of shoes from a previous season, they have not changed, but your feet have grown. And I do not want you to force yourself into limits that no longer match what I am unfolding. My beloved, I do not call you into attachment, I call you into freedom. When you try to hold on to what I have already withdrawn my breath from, you will feel weariness because you are resisting the current I have set. But when you release those things, you do not lose what belongs to me. You simply step away from what no longer serves your journey. As it is written, if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. John 8:36. Freedom does not come from holding on, but from being rightly positioned. My child, I want to give you a spiritual strategy for stepping into the chapter where I have inscribed your name. This strategy does not rely on the reasoning of the mind, but on the sensitivity of the soul. You will not enter with the haste of one afraid of being left behind, but with the stillness of one who knows they are called. As it is written, be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. This stillness is not inactivity. It is standing in the awareness that I am guiding every step. You will move not by fleeting excitement, but by deep discernment. You will not be pulled by temporary emotions, but led by an inward knowing that this belongs to me. You will not chase, for you will come to understand that the one who is chosen is not the one striving to catch up, but the one who is brought into the right place at the right time. and I am bringing you into that flow. My beloved, remain in the posture of one who has heard the call, like Samuel who said, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." 1 Samuel 3:10. Like Isaiah who responded, "Here am I. Send me." Isaiah 9:11. Like David who stepped forward to face Goliath not in his own strength, but in my name. These are not merely outward actions, but inner states of one who knows to whom they belong. When you stand in this posture, you will not be shaken by delay, because you know the timing belongs to me. You will not be dimmed by the opinions of others, because you know my voice outweighs every other voice. You will not be misled by doors that do not belong to you, because you are anchored in what I have ordained. My beloved, engrave this deeply within you. One who has heard their name in my call is no longer defined by any other voice. As it is written, "My sheep hear my voice, I know them, and they follow me." John 10:27. When you recognize my voice calling your name, every other voice becomes merely external sound, no longer holding authority to shape who you are. Therefore today, I am leading you into a new stability, not one rooted in what you hold, but in the one who leads you. And as you walk in that stability, you will realize that nothing belonging to your new chapter requires striving. For I myself am drawing you into what I have prepared from eternity. My beloved, receive these words not as a passing emotion, but as a deep seal within your soul. For this is the culmination of a process through which I have quietly led you across many layers of formation. You are no longer in the phase of being defined by what has been, but are stepping into a reality where I establish your identity within the flow of what is to come. As it is written, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans for peace and not for harm, to give you a future and a hope." Jeremiah 29:11. This means you do not walk into the future blindly, but into a plan already set in place from eternity. My child, I am bringing you into a chapter where your identity is no longer questioned, no longer erased by the voices of others, and no longer overshadowed by past memories. This is the season where what I have written about you begins to be revealed clearly within the order I have arranged. You do not move by fleeting emotion, for emotion shifts. You move by a spiritual confirmation sealed in me. As it is written, "The Lord makes firm the steps of the righteous." Psalm 37:23. Meaning every step you take is no longer a reaction, but a leading. You do not walk to find your position, for I have not called you into uncertainty. You walk because your place has already been prepared before you knew you would step into it. And within my order, what belongs to you does not hide from you. It is being arranged to come to you at the right time. You may think you are searching for something, but in truth, what I have ordained is finding its way to you, converging along the path I have opened. My beloved, recognize this shift. You are entering a season where identity is no longer something you must prove, but something being revealed. This is no longer a season of waiting and uncertainty, but of establishment in light. As it is written, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." John 1-5. As my light begins to shine upon your life, what once concealed you will no longer have the power to define you. I declare over you, this is the season where your name is no longer erased from the pages of the past. For I no longer write you according to old memory. This is the season where your name is engraved deeply into the story I am writing by my eternal purpose. And what I have engraved, no power can erase. My child, I am not only bringing you into a new chapter, I am bringing you into the assurance that you have never been forgotten in any page of the journey I have written. Everything that has happened is being woven together to serve the unveiling of what I have ordained. And as you walk in this chapter, you will realize that you are not striving to find your place, I am placing you into the position only you can fulfill. So be at peace, not because everything is already clear, but because everything is being set into right order. And as you continue to walk, you will see that the calling you hear today is not merely a beginning, but the establishment of an entire journey I have prepared from eternity for you. Now, as you have come to the threshold of the establishment I have spoken over your life, I do not stop at revealing, I lead you into response. Not through the haste of emotion, but through the full surrender of a soul that has recognized it is called. For what I have inscribed upon you is not merely for you to understand, but for you to live, to walk in, and to offer yourself as a worthy response to the call from eternity. As it is written, present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. Romans 12:1. And in that surrender, you are no longer a spectator of the journey, but a participant in the plan I have written. Therefore, be still within, and do not allow remnants of past thinking to intrude upon this moment. Let your spirit open like a vessel ready to be filled. And before you speak, position yourself as one who has been called by name, no longer trembling, no longer doubting, but standing firm in the awareness that I hear every beat of your heart. Now, offer to me your prayer from the deepest place of your soul, with all sincerity, holding nothing back, concealing nothing, for I have already seen and known it all. Almighty God, the one who called me by name before I knew myself, I come before you not as one still searching for identity, but as one learning to live within the identity already given. I thank you that you did not allow me to be lost in seasons I did not understand, but preserved me through every step when I thought I had wandered. Continue to open the ears of my spirit, so I may recognize your voice among all others, that I may no longer be led by fear or old memories, but by the living word that proceeds from you. As it is written, your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Psalm 119:105. I choose to walk under that light unmoved, unlost. Loving Father, I offer my soul to you as ground that has been tilled through many seasons. Sow into it the seeds of eternal life. I do not ask for an easy path, but for a heart strong enough to walk fully in what you have ordained. I release everything that no longer belongs to the new chapter you are opening, even if it once felt familiar or safe, for I know what you prepare is always greater than what I have held. As it is written, cast your burden upon the Lord, and he will sustain you. Psalm 55:22. I lay down every anxiety, every attachment, every old limitation at your feet, so I may walk lightly under your leading. God of perfect timing, I ask for refined discernment to recognize what truly comes from you in this new season. Among open doors and emerging opportunities, keep me from being drawn by appearance alone, but let me perceive through the spiritual atmosphere you have placed within me. Teach me to recognize your peace as the unmistakable sign, so I may step into what is right and turn away from what only appears right. As it is written, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Proverbs 3:5. I lay my limited understanding beneath your infinite wisdom. Faithful Father, I bring you my weakness, not as something to hide, but as a place where your power may be revealed. I no longer fear the unfinished parts within me, for I know it is there that you are working most deeply. As it is written, my power is made perfect in weakness. 2 Corinthians 12:9. Let that power be manifested in my life, not for my glory, but that your name may be lifted high through every step I take. Keeper of every promise, I offer you deep gratitude that you have never abandoned me, even when I did not yet see my true worth. I thank you that every season I thought was forgotten was in fact preparation for something greater. I thank you that every closed door was not rejection, but protection from what was not mine. As it is written, every good and perfect gift is from above, James 1:17. I acknowledge that every good thing in my life flows from you. Merciful Father, I also give thanks that you have called my name at the perfect time, not too early that I would break, not too late that I would miss what was prepared. I thank you that you do not only call me, but lead me, keep me, and place me in the exact position within your plan. I thank you that from this moment, I no longer walk in uncertainty, but in the assurance that I belong to you, and you are completing what you have begun in me. As it is written, he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Philippians 1:6. I trust fully in that completion, my beloved, as you offer these words. I am not only listening, I am responding with a deep movement within your soul. And from this moment, you will no longer stand in the same place as before. Not because circumstances have instantly changed, but because you have changed in me. And when you rise from this place of prayer, you will carry a new establishment that your name is no longer hidden, but is being set into its rightful place within the story I am writing. And I am with you not only to lead you, but to ensure that you will fulfill what I have ordained for your life. Thank you for listening to this message. Know that you are not merely a listener, you are chosen to live daily within the presence of the Word. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss any spiritual message. Amen. Beloved child, let me lead you deeper into the truth. Your soul must be anchored in, for I see every wave colliding within your life where what appears random is in fact marked by a more intricate spiritual conflict than you realize. Not every wound you have endured has come merely from human carelessness. There are undercurrents shaped in darkness, where intent is not revealed through harsh words, but through subtle misdirection, through half-truths, through relationships that seem close yet carry seeds of division. But I declare to you with absolute certainty, nothing hidden in darkness is unseen by me, and no scheme can rise beyond the reach of my light that covers you. For nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed, nor anything concealed that will not be made known and brought to light. Luke 8:17. You may feel as though you have been left in confusion. Yet in truth I am unveiling each layer so that you do not step into what has been set as a snare. And I want you to understand this. The betrayal you sense is not merely the randomness of human emotion, but the collision between destiny and unseen resistance. Darkness does not waste its strategy on what is insignificant. It targets those who carry within them the potential to open a new era. As Paul wrote, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers of darkness." Ephesians 6:12. What you see with your eyes is only the surface of a far deeper conflict. When you notice sudden shifts in the hearts of others, when warmth is replaced by cold silence, when you are placed in isolation as though no one stands with you, know that I have not abandoned you. I am revealing to you the true nature of the connections you once held. Remember the story of Joseph, the chosen son cast into a pit by his own brothers, not because he had done harm, but because the dream within him was greater than they could understand. He was sold and taken to Egypt in the quietness of betrayal. Yet what seemed like an ending became the gateway to preparation for rulership. I wove every thread of suffering into a path toward authority. And recall also the prophet Jeremiah, cast into a pit of mud by his own people, not because he was wrong, but because his truth was too difficult for them to bear. Yet even in that depth, I sustained him, for his mission was not yet complete. Beloved, what is unfolding around you is not meant to destroy you, but to separate you from relationships that cannot sustain the destiny I have placed within you. Those who leave are not always a loss, sometimes they are a purification. Words that are not kept are not always mere broken promises. Sometimes they are signals that I am moving you away from an old foundation. The isolation you experience is not abandonment, it is a silence I create so that you are not overwhelmed while I restructure your life. I know you have asked why what was once familiar now feels distant. Why eyes that once held warmth have grown cold. Why you feel as though you stand in a place where no one understands you. But remember what I have spoken, even though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I am with you, Psalm 23:4. My light does not depend on the presence of others, but on my faithfulness to you. You are being tested not because you are weak, but because you carry a measure of anointing that makes you a target of unseen resistance. As I allowed Job to be tested not to destroy him, but to reveal a faithfulness deeper than human understanding, so too is your life being refined. And as I allowed even my own son to be betrayed by Judas, not because Judas was powerful, but because redemption had to unfold through what seemed incomprehensible, so too are the fractures you witness, part of a greater purpose I am working through you. But, my child, be at peace. Even when you are pushed out of places you once believed were safe, I am positioning you within my true place of safety, not a place without trials, but a place where nothing can break the purpose I have established within you. I am not merely observing your battle, I am governing the current beneath it. And in time, you will look back and understand that not a single tear was wasted. Not a single misunderstanding was random. Not a single betrayal occurred outside my allowance to lead you into a depth of maturity that only the chosen are permitted to walk through. So I speak to you with the certainty of heaven. Do not interpret your pain as an ending, but allow it to become the beginning of a necessary separation between what is true and what is false. Let me refine you like gold in fire, not to destroy you, but to reflect my glory more clearly through you. And when you emerge from this season, you will no longer be one wounded by betrayal, but one released from everything that does not belong to your destiny. Beloved, allow me to expand your understanding, not to burden your heart, but to free you from false interpretations that once caused you to blame yourself for what was never within your control. There are layers of operation in life that the natural eye cannot discern, where what is harmful does not appear in a threatening form, but is clothed in friendliness, gentleness, even perfect timing, causing you to mistake it for blessing. But I see beyond the surface, for I do not look as man looks. I see the motives, the intentions, and the direction of every heart. Manipulation, my child, rarely comes as a direct collision. It often arrives like warm water that lulls you into lowering your guard. Like words that seem supportive yet are subtly designed to shape you according to another's will. It may carry the appearance of care, but lack truth within. It may resemble closeness, yet be void of faithfulness. And slowly, you find yourself being drawn away from the peace I placed within you. But I declare to you, when you begin to sense an unease without clear reason, when your soul becomes unsettled, even though everything outwardly appears fine, this is not misplaced sensitivity. It is the awakening of discernment within you. Test the spirits to see whether they are from God. 1 John 4:1. Not so that you live in suspicion, but so that you are not led by everything that presents itself. And betrayal, my child, does not always come as a visible wound. There are subtler forms. When you needed support and silence met you instead, when you trusted and only half-truths were given, when you opened your heart and that openness was used as leverage. I do not speak this to burden you with bitterness, but to assure you that not a single fracture in your life has escaped my sight. I have seen even what you have not dared to name, even the quiet moments when you wondered why you stood alone in what once seemed shared. Remember Joseph, who was cast into the pit not by distant enemies, but by his own brothers. What they intended as rejection, I transformed into the pathway of elevation. And remember David, pursued by Saul, though he had done no wrong, in those days of misunderstanding, I was quietly building within him a kingship that could not be shaken by human approval. Vindicate me, Lord, Psalm 26:1, not people, not circumstances, but I alone determine your worth and your path. Beloved, understand this more deeply. Not every departure is loss, and not every collapse is failure. There are structures I allow to dissolve, not because they were entirely wrong, but because they no longer align with the level into which I am bringing you. If you try to hold on to what I am dismantling, you will feel as though you are being pulled backward, but if you release in rhythm with my leading, you will experience a lightness you could never create by your own effort. I will never leave you trapped in cycles of relationships that suffocate the life within you. When you begin to see the inconsistency between words and actions, when warmth turns cold, when you find yourself shrinking to preserve harmony, this is when I am shining light into places once hidden. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1-5. That light does not come to confuse you, but to set you free. Consider also Paul and Barnabas when they parted ways. It was not because they hated one another, but because their appointed paths began to move in different directions. Had they forced themselves to remain in the same trajectory, the mission would have been delayed. At times, what appears as division in human eyes is a necessary separation within my design. My child, listen to me in the stillness of your heart. There are people who leave not because you lack value, but because they are not designed to walk into your next chapter. There are promises that break not because you are wrong, but because they do not belong to the flow I am opening before you. And there are doors that close not to block you, but to redirect you toward a path that is higher, purer, and more secure. I do nothing to destroy you, I do everything to shape you. And in this process, I am separating you from connections that seemed safe, but were keeping you beneath the level I have ordained for you. For I know the plans I have for you, Jeremiah 29-11, not the plans of man, not of circumstance, but mine, who sees the entire picture from beginning to end. Therefore, stand firm in this knowing. Darkness may attempt to distort your direction, but it cannot alter the destination I have set for you. You are not being rejected, you are being repositioned. You are not being betrayed to fall, you are being separated so you will not remain bound. And when you look back, you will see that even the most painful moments were used to bring you into a place brighter, Vita, and freer than you have ever known. Beloved, let me engrave this truth into your soul like an unshakable foundation. A moment of spiritual transition has been opened, not as a fleeting shift of emotion or circumstance, but as a turning of the axis within the order I am establishing over your life. What once leaned toward opposition, I am bringing back into alignment. What once weighed upon you, I am lifting. What once misdefined you, I am rewriting with truth that cannot be distorted. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, all things have become new. 2 Corinthians 5:17. This is not merely a promise, it is a reality already at work around you. Even now, I am reversing the currents that once seemed to pull you downward into places with no escape. Words that were spoken to make you doubt yourself, I am stripping them of their authority to define you. Glances that sought to diminish you, I am rendering them powerless before the presence I have placed upon you. Systems of false judgment that once tried to label you, I am removing each label by my own hand. And when I reverse, it is not merely a shift of position, but a shift of governing authority. Those who once appeared elevated above you in the eyes of the world will not retain that place in the chapter I am opening. For I do not operate by human measures, I operate by the eternal truth of heaven. My child, remember Joseph, who was brought down to the lowest point of betrayal. Yet it was in that very place that I began to turn the entirety of his destiny. When my appointed time came, those who once refused to recognize him were compelled to bow before what I had established in him, not because he changed himself to gain approval, but because I overturned the order that human perception had imposed. In the same way, I do not raise you through retaliation or comparison, but through the restoration of spiritual justice that no one can interfere with. I declare to you, you are entering a phase of true unveiling, where what once appeared good but carried hidden motives will reveal itself. Do not be afraid, for this exposure is not to wound you further, but to sever every unseen tie that once held you in dependence. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. John 8:32. Truth is not a burden, it is the key to liberation. And I am opening your eyes not so that you will doubt everything, but so that you will no longer be led by what is false. Remember also Daniel in the lion's den. What seemed like the place of ending became the place where it was proven that no power can destroy what I protect. Those who plotted against him were the ones who faced the consequence of their own designs. This is how I reverse, not through chaos, but through perfect righteousness. Beloved, I do not allow you to become a victim of betrayal, even though you have passed through it. I do not define you by what others have done to you, but by what I am doing within you through it. Each time you felt pushed down, I was resetting your foundation so you would no longer stand upon what is unstable. Each time you felt excluded, I was separating you from what does not belong to your destiny. Each time you experienced loss, I was purifying your path so you would not carry what would hinder you ahead. The Lord lifts the needy from the dust, Psalm 113:7, not through the approval of people, but through my own reversal. And when I act, no force can undo what I have set in motion. Therefore, stand firm in this understanding. You are not being broken, you are being repositioned. You are not being rejected, you are being set apart. You are not being misjudged, you are being freed from every system of judgment that does not come from me. And as you continue forward, you will see that what once weighed you down no longer has the ability to touch you, for I have lifted you into a realm beyond its reach. I am the one who reverses, and when I reverse, no one remains in the same place. Hold firmly to this, for it is the anchor of your soul in this season of transition. You are not descending, you are being lifted through my reversal. Beloved, allow me to lead you into the depth of a movement your natural eyes cannot perceive, but which your soul opened by me can discern. This is not knowledge for analysis by the mind, but the law of my kingdom, where everything that seems contrary is being turned by me into a higher, pura, and unassailable order. In the spiritual realm, darkness operates by a recurring principle. It seeks out the places within you that remain unhealed, the areas where your understanding of yourself is not yet complete, and it strikes there with the intent of making you question the value I have placed within you. But my child, I do not operate in defense as humans do. I do not merely block the blow, I restructure its entire direction. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. That stillness is not weakness. It is the position from which I begin to overturn the battle. Darkness believes it is targeting your weakness, but within my order, the place you perceive as weak is often where I have hidden strength yet to awaken. And when it is struck, what is activated is not collapse, but awakening. Just as a seed must be buried in the soil to bring forth life, the places you once called wounds become the very ground where I have placed growth you have not yet recognized. Nothing is permitted to touch you unless it is part of the process of transforming you into a vessel shaped by my light. Look more deeply. Betrayal, which darkness uses as a weapon. I do not deny, but I redefine. It assumes betrayal will break your trust. But I use the fracture to remove the misplaced trust you once put in people instead of in me. Cursed is the one who trusts in man. Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord. Jeremiah 17:5. See, I am not stripping you of trust. I am redirecting it to the only place that will never fail. I want you to understand a mystery known only to those who are led into deeper realms. Every strategy of darkness has limits, but everything I reverse carries limitless outcome. When it uses manipulation to make you dependent on external validation, I turn it into a process that frees you from that dependence. When it uses silence to confuse you, I use that same quiet to help you hear my voice more clearly. When it uses withdrawal to isolate you, I transform that isolation into a place where I build within you a steadiness that no longer requires affirmation from anyone. Remember Job, who was tested not because he was wrong, but because there was a spiritual dialogue taking place beyond what human eyes could see. Every loss he endured appeared to be destruction. Yet in the end, I reversed it all, so that he would know that no authority apart from me could determine his outcome. I know that my Redeemer lives. Job 19:25. That was not the voice of defeat, but of one who had passed through reversal and stood anchored in truth. Beloved, I am not only protecting you from darkness, I am using what darkness attempts against you to reshape the axis of your life. This is an unbreakable principle of my kingdom. Nothing is permitted to touch you without first passing through my hand. And when I allow it, it no longer retains its original nature, it becomes an instrument of reconstruction. I also want you to understand something deeper. Darkness believes it is creating cracks within you. But I do not allow those cracks to become places of leakage. I turn them into openings through which light enters. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1-5. Light does not contend with darkness in the way human minds imagine. It simply appears. And darkness loses its right to remain. So when you find yourself passing through things that seem to weaken you, do not interpret them as failure. See them as points where I am restructuring your spiritual capacity. When you are misunderstood, I am separating you from dependence on human perception. When you are pushed aside, I am bringing you into a space free from distorted voices. When you are tested, I am strengthening the vertical axis within you. I do not use darkness as it thinks it is using me. I use its limitations to reveal my limitless power. And this is the truth you must anchor in your soul. No strategy of darkness can exceed the boundaries I have set. It may attempt to shake you, but it cannot alter the destination I have established for you. You are not under attack to be destroyed. You are within a process of reversal to be established. And when that reversal is complete, you will realize that you did not merely escape darkness, but that I transformed everything it used against you into the very foundation upon which you now stand more firmly in my light. Beloved, let me show you a deeper principle of sovereignty in my kingdom, a realm that does not operate by reaction, but by the absolute authority of the one who determines all outcomes. You ask how I reverse what unfolds in darkness. But I tell you, I do not function as a counterforce. I do not chase darkness to repair its fragments, nor am I bound within its system. I stand beyond it, and with a single act of my will, structures that darkness deems unshakable collapse like dust before the wind. Be still, and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. This stillness is not passive silence, but the state in which my sovereignty is revealed without contending with chaos. When I reverse, I do not fix each detail of the scheme. I touch its origin, the place where intention was formed. And when the source is struck, the entire structure beneath it loses its ability to stand. This is why Ahithophel's counsel in David's time failed not for lack of wisdom, but because I rendered that wisdom ineffective against my appointed timing. This is why Haman's plot did not merely fail, but turned back upon him, hanging him upon the very gallows he prepared for another. And this is why the cross, an instrument of death, became the gateway of eternal life. I do not react to darkness. I transform its own instruments into the means of its undoing. Beloved, I want you to understand that my reversal is not the repair of isolated parts of your life, but the restructuring of your entire direction. As long as you think I am merely bringing you out of what is wrong, you are still interpreting in terms of being pulled away or pushed forward. But in my reality, I do not move you by force. I lift you by transforming your inner nature. And when your nature changes, your position cannot remain the same. Look at what is happening within your soul. You are no longer drawn to the things that once kept you in lower places. Not because you are forcing yourself, but because I am elevating your perception. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, Romans 12:2. That renewal is not moral striving. It is a spiritual process in which I reshape how you feel, how you perceive, and how you respond to the world around you. I do not need to sever you from what is wrong through dramatic events. I simply change your spiritual frequency. And when you are lifted, what does not belong to that level falls away without struggle. This is not avoidance, it is sacred separation. Just as light and darkness do not negotiate space when light appears, darkness simply yields. I did this with Elijah when he lay exhausted beneath the tree. I did not move him through sudden force, but I nourished him through my presence, my word, and sustenance sent through an angel until he no longer belonged to the state of collapse he had been in. His transformation did not come through striving, but through being gradually lifted into a new way of living. My child, I am doing the same within you. When you find that you no longer desire to remain in places that once wounded you, this is not disinterest. It is the sign that I am changing the frame of reference within you. When you no longer feel the need to prove yourself right, this is not resignation. It is freedom from a burden that was never yours to carry. When you are no longer drawn into vague promises, this is not the loss of faith. It is your soul being sharpened in discernment. I will put my law within them, Jeremiah 31-33. This law is not merely commandment, it is a spiritual mechanism within you that enables you to recognize what belongs to life and what belongs to illusion. That is why you begin to feel an inner resistance toward what is not true, not because you have become rigid, but because you are being refined beyond compatibility with lower environments. Beloved, hold firmly to this. I do not change your circumstances by contending with them. I change you so that you no longer belong to those circumstances. When you are transformed from within, separation occurs without conflict. Others may think you are leaving, but in truth, I am lifting you. Just as Paul and Silas in prison were not freed by force, but through my presence, and the doors opened on their own, not because they broke the chains, but because the atmosphere within them had shifted so deeply that the structure holding them could no longer contain them. Understand this clearly. I do not merely bring you out of darkness. I raise you beyond the level where darkness can reach you. And when that happens, there is no need to struggle, to resist, or to strive. You only need to remain in me, and I in you. And the reversal is already complete within before it manifests without. You are not being separated from your old life. You are being lifted beyond it. And when you stand where I have placed you, you will realize that it is not that you have escaped the darkness, but that darkness no longer has the ability to touch you. Beloved, let me lead you deeper into the place where true elevation occurs, not at the surface of circumstances, but within the unseen structure of your soul, where I am restoring spiritual order within you. I do not lift you through noise or obvious signs, for if I did, you would confuse excitement with true transformation. Instead, I raise you in a more hidden way. I restore the frequency of my voice within you, so that you are no longer led by the chaos of external voices. My sheep hear my voice. I know them, and they follow me. John 10:27. This is not merely hearing with the ear, but a spiritual alignment, where your soul begins to recognize what is true and what is false without needing excessive analysis. As my voice becomes clearer within you, you will notice something unusual. Voices that once carried weight will lose their influence. Words that once unsettled you will no longer define you. Judgments that once caused you to shrink will pass like waves that no longer have the force to touch the foundation I have established within you. It is not that they have changed, it is that you have been repositioned. Stand firm in the freedom with which Christ has set you free, Galatians 5:1. Standing firm is not about straining, it is about being placed where you are no longer pulled backward by what belongs to a lower realm. You will begin to see that you no longer react as before, not because you are controlling yourself, but because I have transformed the very structure of your responses. What once wounded you no longer governs your emotions, because your inner foundation has been rebuilt. I have seen how you once lived, pulled in every direction by words, glances, and even the silence of others. But now I am restoring your spiritual spine, that which was once bent under pressure, fear, and expectations that did not come from me. As I rebuild you, you no longer need to seek validation in order to stand, because your stability now comes from my presence within you. Beloved, remember the prophet Elijah. There was a moment when he fled in fear, believing he was alone. Yet I did not come in the wind, nor in the earthquake, nor in the fire. I came in a gentle whisper, in a stillness that only one who has been refined can perceive. After the fire came a gentle whisper, 1 Kings 19:12. That is how I realigned his mind, not through overwhelming force, but through a presence both subtle and absolute. So it is with you. You are entering a realm where reaction is no longer your first instinct. When difficulty arises, you do not rush into panic, you become still, not because you lack emotion, but because you have learned to place emotion under the authority of guidance. You do not react first, you wait. You do not conclude prematurely, you listen. You do not defend yourself by instinct, you place yourself under the light so that I may direct you. I am not making you cold, I am bringing you into right order. For in my kingdom, peace is not the absence of storms, it is the absence of being ruled by them. My peace I give to you, John 14:27. That peace is not merely a feeling, it is a sustaining power that keeps you steady when everything around you seeks to pull you off course. You will begin to recognize a clear sign. Situations that once provoked strong reactions will no longer pull you away from your inner center. Not because you have become numb, but because you are anchored to a deeper axis, the axis of my presence within you. And once that axis is established, everything external becomes surface movement, no longer capable of overturning your foundation. Understand this deeply. You are not learning to control your reactions, you are being transformed to the point where your former reactions no longer belong to you. This is not behavioral adjustment, it is transformation of being. And when your being changes, you do not have to try to be different, you simply are no longer the same. In this new realm, you stand beneath the canopy of my justice, where everything is no longer interpreted through emotion, but through the light of eternal truth. And here, you will come to understand that I am not only protecting you from darkness, I am reshaping the way you perceive everything within it. Therefore, my beloved, hold firmly to this. You are not being made stronger in the way the world defines strength. You are being placed into an order where you are no longer shaken by what once unsettled you. And when you stand within that order, you will recognize that true elevation is not loud, It is simply that you no longer belong to the place you once occupied. Beloved, let me lead you deeper into the subtle transition I am working within you, where the first change is no longer external circumstance, but the very capacity to be affected within your soul by the forces of darkness. You are entering a level of operation where words that once pierced your heart now pass like sounds no longer aligned with your inner frequency. Not because you have built defenses, but because I have altered the depth of your reception. Your heart is established in me. Psalm 112:7. When your inner foundation is restructured by me, the same words no longer strike the same place, because that place no longer belongs to the old system within you. You still hear, but you are no longer controlled. You still perceive, but you are no longer pulled off course. You still feel, but you are no longer defined by what you feel. This is not numbness. It is spiritual maturity where your soul no longer identifies with every voice that passes through your life. Darkness once used the fear of abandonment as an anchor to bind you in emotional dependence, but I am removing that anchor, so that no threat outside of me can hold you in place. Beloved, remember what I have spoken. I have called you by your name. You are mine. Isaiah 43:1. When you know that you were chosen before you could comprehend it, the human approval no longer defines you. It becomes merely an external reflection of a reality already established in heaven. You no longer search for your place in the eyes of others, for your place has already been set in me. And then you will notice another shift. Subtle, yet undeniable. What is right begins to find its way to you. Not because you have changed your strategy, not because you are striving more, but because you have been repositioned into the proper current. Seek first the kingdom of God, Matthew 6:33, and when you step into that order of priority, everything else begins to align around you. You no longer chase doors. You no longer knock on what does not open. You no longer strive to prove yourself in order to be seen. Instead, doors begin to respond to your presence, not because you are stronger, but because you are rightly positioned in my kingdom. Right placement is greater than misdirected effort. Remember Joseph once more. He did not pursue the throne. The throne came to him when my process within him was complete. He did not chase advancement. Advancement recognized him. What the world calls opportunity, I call appointed timing. Beloved, you will begin to see that vindication no longer requires your defense. Truth has a way of returning to its rightful place without your argument. The Lord will make your righteousness shine like the light, Psalm 37:6. Light does not argue with darkness, it simply appears. And darkness fades, and you will see something even deeper. You are no longer one who must fight to be seen. There will be those who, without your explanation, will recognize what I have placed within you. Not because you have changed how you present yourself, but because I have removed the spiritual covering that once caused your true value to be misunderstood. When I unveil it, you do not need to display it, you only need to be present. Beloved, I want you to grasp this essential truth. I do not come behind you to clean up the battle, I go before you to arrange the field. The Lord will fight for you, Exodus 14:14, is not merely comfort, it is the operating structure of spiritual reality. Before you step into any place, I have already passed through it. Before you face anything, I have already set its boundaries. Therefore, when you see change unfolding in ways that feel natural, yet not random, understand that it is not coincidence, it is arrangement. When you find that you no longer need to struggle for validation, it is not because desire has faded, but because I have shifted the source of your validation. When things begin to open at the right time, it is not luck, it is alignment with the current I have ordained. I am not shaping you into strength by the world's standard. I am forming you into one who is no longer governed by the old system. You do not need to overpower anyone, for you have been placed where competition is no longer required for existence. You do not need to seize a position, for the position has recognized you. And as you stand in this truth, you will understand the greatest change is not that the world around you has altered, but that you no longer belong to the level where the old world could define you. You have been set into a new orbit, and in that orbit, I am your guide, your foundation, and your unchanging affirmation. Beloved, let me press this deeply into your spiritual awareness. For many pass through this point, but do not truly stand within it. Spiritual reversal is not an event that occurs and ends. It is a state established within you, where your entire interpretation of reality has been restructured at its root. When you still view everything through your former frame, you will always see yourself as one being acted upon, betrayed, misunderstood, pushed down, left behind. But when I reverse within you, I do not begin by changing circumstances. I begin by transforming your spiritual perspective. And from that point, the same events no longer carry the same authority over you. Do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. This renewal is not surface-level thinking. It is the reorientation of the entire interpretive axis within your soul. You no longer read life as a series of disconnected wounds, but as a process I am orchestrating with intention, direction, and destination. So you begin to notice something both strange and true. The same memory no longer carries the same feeling. The same person who once hurt you no longer defines you. The same situation that once broke you now stands only as a marker of growth. Not because the past has changed, but because you have changed your position. Beloved, understand this deeply. The moment you no longer see yourself as a victim of betrayal, you step out of darkness's authority over your perception. When you begin to see yourself as one led through betrayal for the cleansing of your vision, you are no longer bound to the old narrative. For I know the plans I have for you, Jeremiah 29:11. Those plans are not interrupted by human actions, but move through them to bring you to the place I have set. You were not being pushed down as you once thought. You were being separated from a level that could not sustain what I am preparing ahead. Some descents are only how natural sight interprets a withdrawal I am performing. But in my reality, nothing is lowered outside of my will. And then you will recognize a clear sign. You no longer react as you once did. You are no longer pulled into old emotional spirals. You no longer need to prove yourself right to preserve your worth. You are no longer governed by acceptance or rejection. This is not numbness. It is the evidence that you have been moved into a new operational realm, where my peace governs your responses. My peace I give to you, John 14:27. This peace does not come after everything settles. It comes to hold you steady while everything is still in motion. Beloved, when your inner state changes its master, you will see something even deeper. The external world loses its power to direct you. Words no longer determine your path. Judgments no longer shape your worth. Losses no longer define your future. You are not removed from the world, but you are no longer bound by the way it operates. This is what I call inner spiritual authority. Not that you control circumstances, but that circumstances no longer control you. And when this takes place, you step into a realm where only those whom I have reestablished from within can remain. Beloved, you are not being delayed. You are being reformed, so that when you enter what I have prepared, you will not be broken by it. And as you walk in this state, you will begin to sense a profound lightness, not because life has become easier, but because you are no longer carrying the burden of misinterpreting everything. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" in confusion. Instead, you begin to discern, "Where am I being led through this?" You are no longer living in reaction. You are living in awareness. And this is the mark of true reversal, not that the external world stops shifting, but that you are no longer shaken by it. For within you, all authority has changed hands. And when I am the one who reigns within, no external force can reclaim the place I have established for you. Beloved, let me seal this word within you as an unalterable decree. For this is no longer a stage of analysis or perception. It is a moment of spiritual establishment, where I proclaim a new order over your life by an authority that does not belong to this world. Be still, and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. Psalm 46:10. When I speak, it is not a suggestion. It is a reality set in motion. And within that reality, you no longer stand in the former field of conflict. For I have moved you into a realm where the governing laws, the order, and the authority itself have all changed. Beloved, I declare to you with the certainty of my kingdom, a spiritual reversal is operating over your life, not as a passing event, but as a decree sealed by eternal authority. This decree does not depend on emotion, is not limited by circumstance, and cannot be undone by any force that has opposed you. What God is determined, no one can change. Job 23:13. This is the foundation upon which you now stand. Therefore, what once worked against you must now change direction, not because you strive to turn it, but because I have touched its axis. Words that once weakened, you lose their authority. Structures that once slowed, you become the very ground from which you rise. No plan formed in darkness can stand when my light has entered its order. You no longer belong to the former realm. You no longer stand under its laws. You are no longer measured by its standards. You now stand in the place. I have prepared a place where only those refined through fire without losing their heart can enter. Blessed is the one who endures testing, for after they have stood the test, they will receive the crown of life. James 1:12. The testing was not to destroy you, but to separate you from everything that could not walk with the glory I am placing upon you. Beloved, I know the past season has not been light. There were moments when you felt pressed beyond your capacity, but I have seen what darkness could not see. Every time you rose again, the order within you was re-established with greater strength. Every time you held on to faith, even in the smallest measure, I was deepening the foundation of your soul in my life. But the Lord is the one who sustains me. Psalm 3:3. You did not rise by your own strength, but by my sustaining current at work within you. Even when you could not perceive it, betrayal sought to break you, but I turned it into the place where you learn discernment that can no longer be deceived. Manipulation sought to bind you, but I turned it into the place where you now hear my voice more clearly than any other. What once tried to suffocate you, I used to awaken you from every dependency that did not come from me. This is not the paradox of suffering, it is the principle of transformation within my kingdom. And now I declare plainly, no force retains the authority to block you from the position I have prepared. No voice holds the power to close what I have opened. No delay carries the authority to pull you out of the path I have ordained. I have set before you an open door, and no one can shut it. Revelation 3-8. This is the seal upon your journey. You do not enter this by merit. You do not arrive by perfection. You are not lifted because you have won every battle. You are brought in because my grace is moving as an unstoppable current, a rising flow that no force of darkness can oppose. Beloved, understand this deeply. When I reverse, I do not merely change the direction of events, I change the authority governing them. And once authority has shifted, everything else must realign accordingly. So walk in this awareness. You are not striving to escape darkness. You are standing in a reality where darkness has lost its claim over you. You are not searching for a way out. You are already within the current that lifts you. You are not being directed by circumstances. You are being guided by my decree. And as you move forward, you will see clearly. It is not that you overcame everything to reach this place. It is that I carried you through everything to establish you here. And this place is one from which no opposing force has the authority to pull you back. Beloved, let me anchor this within you as a new framework of perception that no power can obscure. The reversal I am working does not end with outward conditions. It reaches the root of how you see and interpret all things, where every true battle begins. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. I am not only redirecting your path, I am reshaping the lens through which you perceive every path. When the lens changes, your experienced reality changes even before circumstances do. Where once you viewed life through the lens of fear of error, failure, or losing acceptance, I am now establishing within you a different lens, the perspective of one led by the one who cannot fail. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Psalm 23:1. When you trust that you are being led, fear no longer governs your interpretation. Where once you sought validation to feel worthy, I am bringing you into a place where you live from acceptance already secured before you act. You no longer strive to be accepted. You live from the truth that you are already received in me. And when this becomes your foundation, rejection is no longer a verdict against you, but simply a signal that something does not belong to you. Where once you defended yourself in pursuit of justice, fearing misunderstanding, I am leading you into deeper knowing. No weapon formed against you shall prevail. Isaiah 54:17. When I am your defender, you no longer exhaust yourself, proving your rightness. You stand, and I act. Beloved, this is the evidence that your position has changed, not in the eyes of people, but within the spiritual order I have established over you. You no longer stand in the lower ground of reaction, but in the higher ground of awareness. No longer in the corner of defense, but in the vantage place of spiritual clarity. He raises the poor and seats them with princes. Psalm 113:8. This is not geography, it is position, a place where you are no longer drawn into the chaos of former systems, but are able to see all things from a higher, clearer, and truer perspective. And understand this clearly. My decree does not only elevate you, it entrusts you with the authority that accompanies that position. Not authority to control others, but authority to no longer be controlled by what is not of me. You are given the authority to see clearly, so you are not deceived by appearances. You are given the authority to stand firm, so you are not pulled back by shifting emotions. You are given the authority to choose rightly, so you are no longer bound to remain where you do not belong. You are given the authority to close doors that once opened pathways of misalignment in your life. And above all, you are given the authority to step into grace without fear of being pulled back by your past. Stand firm in the freedom with which Christ has set you free. Galatians 5:1. Freedom is not only an escape, it is the state in which the old system no longer has the authority to return and define you. Beloved, the one I raise does not need to contend for position. True position is not seized through effort, it is recognized when I place someone within it. Like Joseph, who did not pursue the throne recognized him when the time came. Like David, who did not manufacture kingship found him when I had completed my process within him. And I declare to you, you no longer carry the mark of one who merely survived the darkness. You carry the mark of one anointed to live differently. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me. Isaiah 61:1. That mark is not a title, it is a spiritual reality. You no longer belong to the old system of reaction, you belong to the new order of guidance. Therefore, walk as one who has been repositioned, not bowing down to seek worth, not turning back to seek validation, not standing still in fear, but standing in the knowing that I have established you in a place where everything begins from light, not from darkness. And as you walk in this way, you will see something irreversible. It is not you holding this position This position is holding you. Beloved, let me place into your hands a principle of spiritual operation that only those who have passed through reversal can truly understand and sustain. This is no longer the stage of reaction. It is the stage of alignment with the rhythm of heaven. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. This stillness is not outward inactivity, but inner stability, where you are no longer swayed by every event, but begin to recognize and remain within the spiritual frequency I am establishing in you. This is the place where you no longer chase signs. You become the place where signs arrive. Beloved, the sacred strategy I give you today is not built on effort, but on synchronization. Do not run after open doors. Remain in the state where, when I open the door, you are already positioned to enter. I have set before you an open door, which no one can shut. Revelation 3-8. You do not need to force doors, search for doors, or compete for doors, because in my order, doors do not respond to urgency, they respond to appointed timing. Understand this more deeply. In the realm of reversal, spiritual elevation does not come from the quantity of actions, but from the quality of presence. When you stand in the right spiritual frequency, you do not strive to make things happen. Things begin to come toward you, according to the current I have established. You will notice a subtle yet unmistakable shift. What once felt heavy when you tried to do it in the old state now becomes light when you move in peace. Not because circumstances change first, but because your inner rhythm has been realigned. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. Matthew 11:30. When you walk in my yoke, you do not strain to stay on the path. The path itself moves in harmony with you. Conversely, what you attempt from urgency, from pressure of the former season, or from fear of being left behind, will begin to feel heavy, tangled, and unfruitful. Not because I reject you, but because I am teaching you to discern between the movement of the flesh and the movement of the spirit. One is driven by pressure, the other flows from guidance. In this realm, your strategy is simple yet profound. Follow my lightness. That lightness is not carelessness, it is the sign of alignment. When you sense deep peace, without forcing, striving, or proving, that is where I have gone before you. When you feel heaviness, confusion, and strain, it is a sign that you have drifted out of rhythm. Beloved, fix this firmly within you. My elevation never exists to create arrogant distance, but to restore what has been distorted within your life. I have come that they may have life, and have it abundantly. John 10:10. That abundance is not merely material or circumstantial. It is the full restoration of your identity. Your reputation has not been lost, it has only been veiled for a season, so that I may cleanse it of what does not belong to truth. Your voice has not been silenced, it has been quieted for a time, so that I may form its spiritual weight. Your credibility has not been destroyed, it is being restructured so that it no longer depends on people, but on my validation. And your identity, beloved, is being made unassailable by distorted judgments. You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. 1 Peter 2-9. This identity is not determined by circumstance. It is established by me. Understand this clearly. No one can lower the one whom I have lifted, because that elevation is not held in human hands. No one can erase the name I have inscribed, because it is not written by temporary approval, but by eternal will. No one can take what I have placed in your hands, because it is not guarded by your strength, but by my power. Beloved, in this realm, the greatest strategy is not to do more, but to remain in right alignment. It is not to move faster, but to not drift from the current I am leading. It is not to force a path open, but to step into the path I have already prepared. And as you live in this way, you will see something unmistakable. You no longer need to search for your place, because your place begins to hold you. You no longer pursue elevation, because elevation flows toward you as the natural result of being where I have set you. This is the strategy of heaven. Stand rightly. Listen rightly. Step rightly, and all else will come into place in an order that cannot be reversed. Beloved, let me inscribe this into your future as a declaration that cannot be erased. This is no longer comfort for the present, it is positioning for what lies ahead. I am not only lifting you, I am making you a channel through which others are lifted. As the Father has sent me, I also send you. John 20:21. This is the principle of my kingdom. What you have passed through does not end with your deliverance. It becomes the means through which I send you deeper into the mission of light. I speak to you with the certainty of heaven in the coming chapter. You will not only step out of manipulation and betrayal, you will become a guide for those still trapped within it. Not because you are greater than they are, not because you have never been broken, but because you have walked through what they are now facing. Comfort others with the comfort you have received. 2 Corinthians 1-4. That comfort is not theory, it is experience refined through fire. You will become light, not because you were never in darkness, but because I led you through it without allowing it to consume you. You will become a voice not because you were never silent in pain, but because that silence became the place where you learned to hear me more clearly than ever before. You will become a place of healing not because you were never wounded, but because your wounds have been touched by me and transformed into authority. This is the mystery of spiritual elevation. What once weakened you becomes what now stabilizes you. What once caused doubt becomes what now sharpens your discernment. What once brought you low becomes the ground from which you lift others. I will make you a light to the nations. Isaiah 49:6. Light is not formed in comfort. It is forged through a journey that has passed through darkness without being extinguished. Beloved, I speak this as a conclusion. The moment of reversal is no longer something approaching, it has already begun within you. You are standing at a sacred intersection where the past no longer defines your future, and the future begins to reinterpret the meaning of your past. Every former wound is no longer an ending, but a living testimony of my restoring power. I will restore to you the years that were lost. Joel 2:25. My restoration is not merely the return of what was taken, it is the elevation of it beyond what you could have imagined. Therefore, you no longer walk as one who has merely escaped danger. You no longer carry the posture of one who only survived. You no longer define yourself by what is past. You walk as one entrusted after the battle, one marked by overcoming and by the power of restoration. Every former wound, I am turning into new authority, not so that you remember the pain, but so that you carry the ability to reach into the places where others are hurting and bring my healing there. Everything that once came against you, I am transforming into a sphere of influence where you will walk with unshakable peace. Beloved, I am not only bringing you out of the battle, I am entrusting you with territory beyond it. The promised land is not merely escape from oppression. It is the place where you are commissioned to establish a new order of life. And hold this as an unshakable seal. You do not walk alone. I will go before you and make the crooked places straight. Isaiah 45:2. I go before you not only to open the way, but to ensure that every step you take is already aligned within the design of heaven. Therefore, step forward, not with passivity, not with fear, not with defensiveness, but with the peace of one entrusted with a mission that extends beyond personal survival into becoming a source of light for others. You are not only lifted, you are sent. And wherever you go, darkness is no longer the end point. It becomes the starting point for the healing I carry through you. Thank you for listening to this message. Know this, you are not merely a listener. You are chosen to live daily in the presence of the Word of God. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss any spiritual messages. Amen.